when sacred is so because of ignorance. That which is oftentimes sacred today was a simple tool or idea in ancient times. Because of ignorance, or not knowing, we worship ideas as sacred without background knowledge or its origin of intent. This ignorance of origin is the main reason for Christian dogma. Let's consider an ancient psychological diagnostic tool that became sacred in religion because of ignorance. How do you know when you are making progress on your personal journey? Answer: when the thing that bothered you before no longer have the same effect. This then becomes a self-evident mechanism to recognize you for you, by you, and not needing outside validation. This idea of change and transformation was expressed in a simple framework in ancient times that stated in many different ways but expressing the same concept. This framework is preserved in the Bible via a number of scriptures. Many of the Christian ideas that we have professed as sacred knowledge is based on ancient African mythology that the Greeks and Romans in ancient times never knew or understood the meaning of. Couple that with the Western understanding of mythology from a Greek perspective of being fairy tales with form but no substance, and we can totally get lost to the science involved in the ancient symbolism of mythology. The idea of Jesus is a case in point of something sacred that became facts for people that didn't understand or know the origin of the ideas. Because they were ignorant of the origin, it became basically superstitious worship. The idea that became Jesus is based in the ancient burial customs of Africa, specifically Egypt. The rituals and customs grew from the spiritual beliefs of the people and their connection to nature. Ancient Egyptians got a lot of their belief systems that came up through the Nile from interior Africa. Africans didn't believe in death. They viewed existence as a series of cycles that never end. The physical body for them was a transitory vehicle for the soul. The body was temporary and expressing the soul, the real you, in physical form. The body trapped the soul, and when the body died, the soul would exit and go through a spiritual obstacle course to develop some new skills and then return to earth and be born again to live in another body. When you understand the ancient Kemetic Egyptian beliefs about the soul and its transition into the body as the primary you, the hidden meaning in many scriptures will be unlocked. You also must understand that the ideas work on multiple levels: the literal and metaphysical, the concrete and abstract, because they are universal principles, or as the ancients said, divine. The scripture John 10:30, I and the Father are one, is expressing a relationship on a literal level, but is also expressing metaphorically the Kemetic belief in cycles on another level. But even deeper, it is also expressing universal principle that can be applied in daily life. The universal principles were personified in myth. Hence, Heru, the principle of perpetual renewal, stated about Asar, I and the Father are one, over 5,000 years ago, in the Egyptian book of coming forth by day, or what the Europeans call the Book of the Dead. The principle is expressing the idea that from death, something is renewed or reborn. For the ancient Egyptians, death and the new life are simply two sides of the same coin. When you change beliefs about a situation or event, the old consciousness in you dies and a new consciousness is born from within. It's two sides of the same coin. John 10:30, I and the Father are one, expresses this idea as a formula that can be applied deeper than simply stating a believed relationship to Jesus and God. Another way to state the same idea is when you change your beliefs, the old aspect of you dies and the new aspect is reborn or resurrected. The same event that used to cause you to have a big emotional reaction now genuinely doesn't bother you anymore. That's when you recognize change from within. The death of the old you is connected to the new you. Without the death, the new you couldn't emerge. The ancients recognized this simple truth with the axiom, I and the Father are one. The Father was the cyclical principle of Asar. Paul, who supposedly was a Gnostic, although no historical record of Paul exists, said it this way in Galatians 2, verse 20. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. If you know the Kemetic belief system that Paul got his idea from, you can recognize an aspect of the cyclical expression of life. As dogma, you think he's talking about Jesus. He is saying that one aspect of himself died or was crucified, but the new aspect now lives transformed within him. The Spirit gave itself to bring Paul to life. Without the dogma, this becomes a very deep and revealing principle to understand what happens psychologically when we change. But you must know the backdrop and origin of the biblical teachings to extract the wisdom, or you think it's about something Jesus did. The ancient science is an empowering idea and tool for personal understanding. The religious dogma is debilitating. Any thoughts?